So good afternoon, everyone. We are welcome again to our virtual class in Econ 2122 with a descriptive title of Applied Economics. So we are in week 8 of our discussion. So with the title Supply Demand in Philippine Economic Problems. Okay, so for those who are new, I'm Mrs. Marivic C. Santos, your online learning coordinator. So the objective for our week 8 topics, first, analyze the demand and supply forces that can affect the value of Philippine currency in relation to foreign currency. And also apply the law of demand and supply in terms of housing shortage and how this has led to the real estate boom in the country. And also the concept of minimum wage, and also the importance or necessary for the government to impose taxes. Okay, so first is the Philippine peso and foreign currencies. So selling locally made products, which is called exports, means we earn
Ano, sapa-sapa.
so let's continue. Okay, selling locally made products called exports means we earn dollar as 1,170 payment of these goods both by the foreign buyers. So we buy goods from other countries. This is also called as imports. So if we are selling our local products to other countries, it's called exports. And those goods that we buy in other countries are called imports, or that's why we call it imported products. Okay. So here, when we travel to foreign countries, we bring peso or the US dollar. So we convert them into local currency of the country which we visit. So example here, when we travel last year, last year, it's 2019, to Vietnam. Here we are in the Philippines, so we have peso. So when we go to Vietnam, this is not easily that we convert peso to dong. So we need to convert peso to dollar and dollar to dong or Vietnamese dong. So example here, if I have 10,000 pesos, which I checked it in last January 13, assuming I'm going to have an exchange my currency from peso to Vietnamese dong. So here I need to if I have 10,000 pesos, I need to convert it to the US dollar. So I know we have banks and other exchange market or currency exchange market that doing this. So from 10,000, I exchanged it to US dollar, which I received 208 US dollar. So when I travel to Vietnam, I need to exchange my 208 US dollar into Vietnamese dong. So when I convert it, out of 10,000 pesos that I have, when I go to Vietnam, I receive 4,797,416 Vietnamese dong. So imagine, with $10,000 I became millionaire in Vietnam. Okay. So you see the conversion of different countries here, countries. So you don't just it is not directly that when we are going to other countries. So it is not directly that we need to convert it to the currency of other countries. We need to exchange it to US dollar, then convert it to other currency, country's currency. So imagine when we travel, when you go to Vietnam, your thousand of pesos will become millions in Vietnam. Okay. So this is an example of different foreign value of different foreign currencies. So with 10,000 pesos, I only have 208 US dollar. But when I exchange it to Vietnamese dong, I have 4 million plus of Vietnamese dong. So the rate of conversion of the Philippine peso to foreign currency is reflected to the exchange rate. So there are reasons I just want to share it with you, where I get it from the internet, because I wonder why is it that when we travel to Vietnam, why is it that I became millionaire easily? Okay, so from 10,000 pesos, I received 4 million plus of Vietnamese dong. So this is what I get from the internet. Few reason why Vietnamese currency is considered as one of the weakest in the world. Because there is an effect on the supply and demand of the currency. So here is first is the Vietnam opened itself up to global markets only in 1986. So it means almost or about 34 years or 35 years ago. It's considered as new to the market. Therefore, there is limited sense of security and trust from foreign investors to invest to their country or to Vietnam, because it starts their currency or the country is the Vietnam is just they opened their to the global market only in 1986. Then all the regulations set up by the government also plays part in this. So because in Vietnam the government has a big percentage of control in terms of business, or in terms of the regulations of businesses. So actually in Vietnam they have standards of areas, especially in having an area in in their lot, and also they have limited number of children that are required. So example, if their limited children, I think is 2. So if magsusobra kayo sa dalawang anak, so you are going to pay the tuition of your children is not free na. So pero if you have one child only, so the tuition of your children or of your child is free pa. And also they have limit in terms of area ng bahay or ng lupa na or property ng residents. So mostly of the houses there is mostly may second floor, third floor. So they cannot expand their area compared in our here in the Philippines. So that the government is so strict on their country. So because of that, here there's an excessive government involvement. That's why discouraged by any willing investor in investing in Vietnamese market. Another reason is that the government regulation and processes invariably lead to corruption. So it is actually not only in Vietnam, even in our country. So here, also issue din yung corruption, red tape, mga bureaucracy in developing markets. Also, another reason is the sign of hyperinflation. So inflation is rising of prices in the market. So when you say hyper, so mas taas or mas mataas pa siya sa inflation rate. There's large denomination or often sign of hyperinflation. That's why in Vietnam in 1988, they facing 770% plus of inflation. So the fact that the world thousand is now just considered a unit of currency, it's more than a denomination value, is a sign of how Vietnam has normalized its hyperinflation. That's why with the 10,000 pesos you have, when you go to Vietnam, it's 4 million. But when we travel there, the yung so sa Philippines we have, for example, here in Iloilo, we have bok choy. Okay? So, yung sample ng bok choy natin dito, doon sa kanila, example, we have 65 to 70 pesos of bok choy. Doon sa Vietnam, example yung bok choy nila or ang pansit nila, they have the cost is 45,000 dong to 65,000 dong, Vietnamese dong. So imagine 65 pesos dito, doon sa kanila 65,000. Okay, so there is high it is considered as hyperinflation. So in order to normalize it, so the value of the currency of to their country is also high. So even though you have 4 millions of Vietnam dong, but the cost of the prices there is also 1,000. So example, when you buy a clothes, it's cost example 300,000 to 500,000. Okay. So another is the denomination of notes that the government keeps printing. So this is one of the reason or simplest reason why the Vietnamese dong is considered as the weakest currency also because the government keeps printing. Do you imagine if the government here in the Philippines keeps printing currency, di ba? Marami tayong pera. Okay? But what is the effect, di ba? Too much is dangerous, di ba? So too much is dangerous. So example, because if this supply exceeds the demand for Vietnamese dong, then the value of this Vietnamese dong are available in abundance is depreciated. Bumababa din yung value ng Vietnamese dong. So that's why the more nagtataas yung supply ng currency compared sa demand, so yung value ng Vietnamese dong also nagde-depreciate o bumababa din. That's why what happened to the Vietnam. So this enables the market to decide how many Vietnamese dong will be required to buy each US dollar. So with only 200 US dollar, the value to their country is so also low or depreciated also. Also, but there is also an advantage on the side of the government or Vietnamese government because of the low value of the exchange rate in their country. It creates a gain on their upper hand to their against or compared to their competitors because they encourage to do exports. So in Vietnamese government, they exports or there are more not investor or there are other countries who wants to do the other countries who wants to import their products or from the Vietnam because of their low value in terms of their currency. But on the side of the Vietnam, they are on their positive side. They encourage what do you mean? More of they discourage imports. They encourage exports because there are many buyers or companies who want to buy their products or their production in their country. So that's why there is a high value in their exports. While since mahal naman yung value if they're going to do imports, so that's why most of the Vietnamese encouraged to prioritize their local products. Okay, so there is effect also to the in terms of the value of the currency of Vietnamese dong. So there is advantage and also this also a disadvantage. Okay, so here in this simple example of Vietnamese currency, you can say that hindi man pala maganda if marami tayong supply of money or supply of cash, or if our country is continue printing currency. Okay, so these rates are dependent. So these rates are dependent on the working of demand for and supply for the currency in the market. So let's go back again. So here, again, based on the example of the Vietnam currency, if this supply exceeds the demand, then the value of, example here, the Vietnamese dong that are available in abundance is depreciated. So we will go back to the supply and demand. Diba? The higher the supply and the lower the demand, the prices will get also low. And then reverse, the lower the supply, there's high demand, the currency will also, or the price also increase. So this will also apply to the currencies in terms of different rates. So these rates are dependent on the working of demands for and supply of the currency in the market. That's why, example here in US dollar. So US dollar is in demand in the market or in the exchange rate. So the price of the dollar will increase and will be reflected in a higher exchange rate in favor of dollar. So which means that one will need more pesos to buy dollars. So that's why, based on our example, with $10,000 that I have, the exchange to dollars, 10,000 pesos I have, the exchange in the US dollar is 208 US dollars. Okay. So the most commonly traded currency in the world is US dollar. So before US economy experienced economic recession in 2008, 2018, the dollar had very high value in the market. That's why actually there's a highest value of US dollar in the Philippines. With $1, it is equivalent to 55 pesos. That's why if you have dollars in your pocket, so itago nyo muna. Baka magtaas pa yung value ng dollar, $1 to peso. So, mas mataas yung exchange or ang value ng dollar nyo. Okay, so actually I encountered this, that dollar with $1 is equals to 55, almost 55 pesos yung value niya. But as I checked today, the exchange rate of $1 is equals to 48.06 pesos. Okay. This is the example of Philippine peso to foreign currency exchange rate. So here, I know you encounter this, the buying and selling of foreign currency. So hindi yung kung if buying, if bili kayo, this is the value. So no, it is on the side, or this is in the side of the market, or in the side of the money exchanger, or on the side of the bank. So the bank, what you call, the bank they're selling currency with a value of $1 is equals to 48.30 pesos. And if they're going to buy it, your dollars, the value of this is $1 is equals to 47.8. So if you notice, mas mababa yung buying nila compared sa selling. So siyempre, market, business. Okay, so here, example here, if you have a cash of 10 pesos, and you're going to exchange it to the bank or any black market or money exchanger. So on the side of the money exchanger of bank, it is on the selling. Because mag-sell sila, magbebenta sila ng dollar in exchange of peso, right? In exchange of peso. Okay. So here, if you have a 10,000 cash, so ang equivalent niyan, since yung update, yung exchange rate is based on the current exchange rate. So if the exchange rate right now is 48.30, and you want to have a US dollar out of 10,000 pesos in your pocket, so to compute, to get your US dollar, you need to divide it to the exchange rate. So $1 is equals to 48.30. So that's why 10,000 pesos divided by 48.30. So you will receive from the money exchanger of 207.3 US dollar. Okay, so assuming naman you have a cash of 207 US dollar. So pinadalhan kayo ng tita nyo or ng parents nyo ng dollar. Okay? So you have 207 US dollar. So you need to convert it into peso. So exchange nyo naman. So their buying naman rate of of the peso is 47.8. So yung value ng 207 US dollar nyo is only 9,894.60. So if you have 207 US dollar, so i-multiply nyo in 1 US dollar, you have 47.8 pesos. So therefore, yung marireceive nyo out of 207 US dollar is 9,894.60. Okay. So that's the conversion of the currency. Okay, so here, take note of the principles in terms of the foreign currency, in terms of the supply and demand. When the supply of the currency increases, its value tends to decrease, and we pay a lower price for it. When the supply of the currency increases, means madami yung supply, its value tends to decrease. So, bababa yung value ng currency or ng exchange rate. And we pay a lower price for it. Okay, so when the demand for a foreign currency increases, So it means madami yung nag-exchange. O example, marami yung na-exchange ng dollar or demand. That's why there's a demand. Nag-increase yung demand in terms of foreign currency. Its value will increase and we pay a higher price for it. Okay, so this is the two principles in terms of applying the law of supply and demand in terms of the currency. Okay, so we need foreign currencies to trade with other countries. That's why most of we need to a foreign currency. That's why most of in our government we encourage foreigners in terms of tourism so that there are more foreigners or balikbayan that will avail or exchange dollar to peso. So it means the more there's a high demand or the more foreigners exchange peso to dollar or the more investors are enter in our country, the more demand or avail of the demand of exchanging dollar to currency. So the value of the peso will also increases and the value of dollar decreases. Okay, so example here. So if we have the example of the exchange rate, so 1 US dollar is equals to 48.06 pesos. So here in terms of in the Philippines, so sa Philippine ito, and then sa Vietnam naman with 1 US dollar it is 23,064.50 Vietnamese dong. So mataas yung value here ng talaga ng dollar. Okay? So example of exchange rate. So when we buy imported brands like Nestle chocolates, Prada, so mostly imported products, Nike shoes, the importer pay for this in the currency of the country from which we buy these goods. Okay, that's why mataas yung value ng mga imported products because of the exchange rate plus the other fees that they pay before or upon or during sa pagpasok sa country natin. So from other countries, i-ship pa plus the price of the product, imported products times the exchange rate. Okay. That's why mostly US products are expensive. And most of the imported products, example, some Nestle chocolate, they have other factories in other Asian countries, example China or Samsung, mayroong sa Vietnam. So there are because other countries have a factories in those countries that wherein the value of the currency is lower. So if we are going and then after that those products na na create babalik ulit doon sa country, example sa US, then tatakan nila yon ng brand name and then they will market it to other countries. That's why nagiging mahal na yung product. So is an example of this. So the importers pay this currency, this in the currency of the country from which we buy these goods. Also, for example here, when we visit England to see famous London Bridge, okay, or catch a glimpse of Prince William's, or we are going when go shopping from different stores in England. So we need to exchange our money to British pounds so we can enjoy doing all of this. So this is what we do last time when we go to Vietnam also. So in order to enjoy our shopping, our dollar, we need to convert our dollar to Vietnamese dong. So you cannot use US dollar in buying those products. You need to exchange it to banks or to example to airports or may other money exchanger. Okay, so naintindihan niyo ba yung ano po, yung about foreign currencies? Okay, so I will proceed. Thank you. So I will proceed to the next um, topic is about housing shortage. So this is common problem in our country also sa Philippines. Housing shortage and the real estate boom in the Philippines. So there are other class or ano yung level of ano na in terms of the low level families, so there are difficulty in terms of having a residential house or property. But then later on, naging nag-boom na ngayon ang real estate. Pero ngayon because of pandemic, medyo nag-low naman yung real estate because of pandemic. So medyo mahina yung income ng tao to pay for the payment for the yung real estate cost. Okay, so there is housing shortage and the real estate boom in the Philippines. So here in the late 1990s, so during the Asian financial crisis, construction hit low level in the Philippines. So basta may financial crisis, it affects all the businesses, all the incomes of the people. So some high-profile construction projects were abandoned. So also here, we experience yung mahina yung benta or market in terms of real estate nung ngayong pandemic. Because marami yung na-unemployed, maraming businesses na nag-shutdown or nag-stop operation. Okay, so but nung before pandemic, grabe yung yung selling ng or building ng construction. So nag-boom itong construction projects also. Okay, so in 1990s, there are high profile construction projects were abandoned and the demand for housing was at low level. So hindi pa siya mabenta. So some real estate companies even had to close. Okay. So far, yung mostly real estate ngayon, medyo nag-less lang sila or downgrade or ang term yun? Nag-less term yun. Medyo nag-reduce sila sa number of their employees. Okay? Sa real estate companies. Pero mostly hindi naman nag-close. So this was the effect of decreased demand for construction project. Okay, so it is in late 1990s actually. Okay, due to Asian financial crisis. So this what happened? There's a decreased demand for construction projects due to financial crisis. So however, as soon as the Asian countries recovered from crisis, the construction sector also started to recover. So that's why if you see in different part or area of the Philippines, there's high-rise condominium buildings and townhouses started to bloom in metropolis. So here, same in other provinces. Nag-boom na yung mga real estate, especially yung mga subdivisions and condominiums. That's why later, meron ng mga real estate brokers na na-create na they are required na dapat yung real estate, yung agent dapat either licensed real estate broker or accredited real estate salesperson. So here in Metro Manila, it is still continue to see new building rising. Yes, di ba? Mga mataas ng buildings, mga condominiums, and commercial buildings. So the real estate boom currently in being due to booming of BPOs or business process outsourcing or mga call centers in the country. And with the rising number of BPOs in the metropolis, this also need to put up offices. That's why there is a high demand in commercial spaces or commercial buildings. And with more employees working in these offices, some of those that are from provinces, they go to Manila or Metro Manila because there is a high demand, because of high demand in employment also, and at the same time work. So there's also increase in the population of Metro Manila, and there's a rise demand for residential spaces due to um a rising of BPOs. So it gives also employment opportunity to the people and to investors of real estate due to the demand for residential spaces or commercial spaces. So if you see, due to booming of real estate, it gives also opportunity to to reduce the unemployment rate and to increase the employment rate because of the booming of or rising of new job opportunities like BPOs or call centers, and it gives also opportunity for the investors of or those businesses engaged in real estate. Okay. So because yung mga ibang provinces nag-a-apply sa Manila because of the high rate in terms of the minimum of the wage rate, at the same time more demand in terms of employment. So there's a need also or demand for residential spaces. That's why there are apartments that offer also rentals because demand na yung residential spaces. Okay, so here in the sample table, so this is explained that the total, this is about the population of yung number of occupied housing units in the Philippines. So, grabe yung increase in 2010 is about 19,000 because of different factors also na nagdemand yung housing in the Philippines because of the increase in opportunity for employment because of the booming of different businesses. It gives also high employment rate also to the people. So, and also because of the high OFW, high percentage of OFW or overseas factory worker or overseas Filipino worker who go abroad. So, diba, they gain income sa abroad. So, most of the OFW is they invest their money sa real estate. So, siyempre, sino naman hindi gusto na magkaroon ng sariling bahay or properties. So that's why, because of the increase in OFW sector or population in OFW, it gives an opportunity also to increase the residential demand. And also, the remittances allowing their families back home to buy more affordable houses. That's why there are many real estate or subdivisions offer socialized housing. So socialized housing, yung pinakamababa is 400,000. May house in lot ka na. So mostly yung mga townhouse or row houses. So here, so it gives an opportunity. Also, the government example, the Pag-ibig provide loans to those who cannot buy or those member of Pag-ibig na gusto bumili or mag-loan ng mga affordable houses. Example, yung mababa is 400,000, pwede na silang mag-loan or have financing sa Pag-ibig. Okay, so that's why in the Pag-ibig, on the government side, ang Pag-ibig yung yung nagbibigay ng loan, nag-offer ng loan, or they have also option yung mga banks. They have banks financing also. And then also, office building and high rises continue to sprout all around. So because of the increase in residential demand, syempre, there's opportunity also for businesses to put up different businesses. So if you notice, there are subdivision na nagde-develop dito na side. So if you notice, if that area noon is just in agricultural lot and converted into residential lot, so if there are houses na and residents nagstay na or nag-live in that area, if you notice, there are many businesses na nag-open. May mga commercial buildings na nagre-renta ng different spaces wherein yung mga businesses maka-put up sila ng iba't ibang businesses like laundry shop, they have mga different or they provide RTWs or mga groceries or sari-sari store na because if there is a residential demand, increase in residential demand, there's opportunity for businesses. And also, the more na nag-increase yung value ng or prices ng real estate due to increase in development ng example, may mga buildings na so tumataas din yung value ng property. However, there are numerous construction sites as developer tries to meet the backlog in housing for Filipinos. So there's also cases wherein in a certain real estate developer on the selling side, yung nagbebenta, they spend more on providing commission to the agents or to the real estate brokers. And then they provide, if they reach certain sales, they have at the year end, they will avail of the free car. So na most of the expense or most of the expenses of the developers spend on marketing. So they provide high percentage of shares in terms of commission sa mga sales. Nagka-result siya ng, and then there's an increase in demand of buyers. In availing of for example, they have discounts and also maganda yung sales stock ng agents. So sometimes yung developers, yung fund ng developers is nagre-result to backlog in terms of housing. So there are some problems. That's why mostly they expect that they will have, example, yung house nila hindi pa na-construct, and then yung estimated na year na dapat ma-construct is 1 year and 1/2. 1 year and a half dapat may bahay na sila. So sometimes it results to backlog. So there are other reason aside from there are other reason why developers also have backlog in housing. And also promotion of housing developers so aggressive. That's why that happened in a real estate company also. So grabe yung sales stock ng mga agents to avail of big commissions. So pero dapat dapat ma-meet lang yung target na construction. So if they set to the, or they present to the buyers that their house will build next year. So sana ma-build talaga. So because sometimes it gives frustration also to the buyer if nagkaka-backlog yung housing project nila. So here, if you see, if you go to the malls, there are many agents come to you and give you brochures. Di ba? Madami kang makita mga, parang friends kayo ng mga agents who are selling condominiums, townhouses, different subdivisions, different real estate companies. And they provide also different financing. You can choose pag-ibig financing, bank financing, or in-house financing with different terms to the buyer. Okay? So also, so for those na hindi makaya yung makabili ng ng house in lot or residential properties. So there's also rent. Most of okay, ako nagrerenta din ako ng because here example of the concept of rent in layman's or in our own understanding, rent is a payment for the use of land or building belonging to others. So, di ba, yun yung concept natin ng rent. Okay, so example, nagrenta ka tayo ng isang studio type na na room, studio type. Okay? So it costs how much? 5,000 per month. For example, yun yung concept natin ng renta. So we are not the owner of the building or of the room, pero we have also the rights to use that room. Okay? Because binabayaran natin yan every month. So it is the compensation made to the owner of such land or building. But on the viewpoint of economics, rent refers to the payment made to or for a factor of production over and above the amount expected by its owner. O bongga yung yung meaning. Ito pala yung meaning in terms of economic. In the viewpoint of economic. So payment made to or for a factor production over and above the amount expected by its owner. And also the economic rent is the positive difference between the actual payment made for a factor of production such as land, labor, or capital. So ito yung mga factor of production. So difference, it means yung actual payment made for a factor production, actual payment made minus to its owner. Minus the payment level expected by the owner. So it is due to exclusivity or scarcity. When you say scarcity, limited or insufficient resources. So economic rent is considered as an earned income. Why is it called unearned? When you say, let's review your accounting. So when we say unearned, di ba? When you say earned, you render the service. But yung unearned is binayaran na pero hindi pa na-rendered or na-avail yung service. So when we have rental, di ba, they are required to 1 month advance, 1 month deposit. So hindi pa natin nagagamit yung space, nagbabayad na tayo. That's why there is prepaid rent kung sa accounting. So prepaid rent is considered as an unearned income. Okay? So review ng accounting lang. Okay, so the problem of unaffordable decent housing is the problem not so much in the middle class as the poor due to poverty. So if you cannot afford of the houses or your own house or own property, that's why we go to rent. And mostly, so yung hindi maka-afford due to poverty. So the poor cannot afford decent housing at all. So they're let alone they are not convincing enough for housing loans. So, di ba may standard din or requirements if you want to avail housing loan sa Pag-ibig. So, they are not convincing enough for housing loan without formal employment and paying capacity. So that's why lacking skills, they are self-employed or vendors, or they're not regularly employed. So it's just like construction workers. So thus they live hand to mouth without employment records. That will entitle them to social benefits provided by the government. So thus the poor squat on other people's land. In the people's land or rent squatter housing is a subhuman living condition that they can only afford. So, but then our government also provide housing to the poor or to those who cannot avail of the housing loan or cannot avail of the properties. So they provide also mga housing. However, some of those that they can pay it with the yung mas mura at yung yung hindi mabigat yung yung monthly nila. Yun. So the government also provide this. However, some of those in those people na in squatter or those involved in poor level or those na they prefer na yung mostly ginagamit nila is yung pinaprovide ng government sa kanila, ginagawa nila, binibenta nila at affordable prices, and then they do again squatting in other areas na naman. So yung nagsistay sa project ng government, hindi yung mga sa squatter. So may bumibili at afford at pero they cannot avail of the title. So yung bumibili ng mga ganong klaseng project is maka-avail sila, rights na lang siguro. Okay. So questions sa real estate before we proceed to savings and investment. So clear naman sa inyo in terms of the demand of real estate. So if there are many OFWs or yung gives an job opportunities for residents or people. So it gives also opportunity for to increase it results to increase in demand in terms of real estate. So if in terms of the supply and demand of real estate, if there are many there's a high demand in terms of residential, the price and the supply, the result also the supply will also decrease, and then it will result to the prices of real estate also increases. But there are other factor also why is it the real estate also increases due to different development. So if you notice, if there are many subdivisions that builds in that area, there are also businesses open because of the increase in in population or in market. So madami yung nagsistay, maraming tao, there is an opportunity for business. It means there's high demand also. So yung prices ng yung prices ng mga real estate also increases also. Especially kung marami yung bumibili. If you notice, if na new pa lang yung real estate, yung subdivision, bago pa lang siya open, 'di ba? Ano pa siya, affordable pa 'yan or mababa pa yung price. But if 50%, example, after 6 months, 50% of the units of of the subdivision already sold, yun, tataas na yung price ng real estate or yung prices ng unit nila, okay, or ng houses. So if you notice, yun, and then especially if mabilis yung benta ng real estate, so mabilis din yung pagtaas ng prices. Okay. But as of now, medyo mahina yung benta ng real estate. So because of the pandemic, madami yung OFW na umuwi na sa Pilipinas. So yung iba na may binabayaran pa, yung iba binibenta or nag-stop na lang ng payment sa real estate. Yung investment nila sa house, sa real estate. That's why there's possibility na bababa din yung demand ng market sa real estate. And then the prices of real estate, if you notice, hindi naman siya tumataas because medyo mahina yung benta. Makonti yung demand and then madami yung supply. That's why yung iba, if there are more yung mataas yung supply sa real estate, yung ibang subdivision nag-offer ng 10,000 down payment. Pwede na dayon mag-transfer or and then yung monthly payment yun na lang yung babayaran nyo. Okay? 10,000 down payment, 10,000 reservation, move in agad. May mga ganyan. So, in order to increase the demand in real estate. Okay. So, let's go to the savings and investment. So, savings and investment. So, investment is defined as building up the capital stock for more future production and consumption. So, mostly, diba, we do, when we are going to invest, we are expecting to increase our capital. So, because our capital plus our profit or yung benta natin is your total capital natin. So here, the cost of investment is savings. It's defined as postponed consumption at present. And the use of money as exchange and credit medium can maximize savings and investment. So savings and investment, diba, parang pareho din, no? It gains income. So, pero iba si savings, iba si investment. So, while one constantly saves money for future use, another one spends on investment, even before accumulating savings by borrowing. So, one can borrow and repay against future accumulated savings. So, example, ako, because I get my money, hard-earned money because pinagpawisan ko yun. So because I am employed, so I need to save due to, especially ngayon now, it's pandemic, we need to save our money. Then there are other person naman na ginagamit na yung money na example to invest to gain profit. So, example, I put my money to the bank and the other one, ginagawa niya yung nagbaborrow siya sa bank in order to invest it in business. Example, nagplan siya mag-put up ng laundry shop because ito yung medyo booming laundry shop, milk tea, ano pa. So, yun yung most think niya, ito yung medyo boom ngayon sa market. So, because medyo wala siyang savings, so he need to invest. So paano siya magkapera? So magbaborrow siya sa bank. So one can borrow and repay against future accumulated savings. So yung profit is set aside, babayaran yung loan sa bank, and then yung others is enrolling. So yun ang sa business. So the credit system through its intermediaries like banks, link savers and investors who are not the same person. So thus this access encourages savings to maximize its allocation for investment. So ito yung ano ng credit system or financial system. So I give you i-discuss ko muna dito yung ano sa theory. So even government borrows the savings of household. So merong savers, and then savers can be household or tayo, or also banks, and then businesses I mean, and then merong yung investors or yung may business, so ginagamit din yung na-borrow na money to considered as capital sa business. And also the government borrows savings of household and businesses to spend on capital accumulation. So tatlo, si household, si business, at si government. So these are the agents doon sa savings and investment. So si government also borrow. And then capital takes the basic forms of machineries, equipment, and buildings and constructions. So while businesses build additional factories that also create employment, households continuously accumulate fixed assets like houses, cars, for more services. Okay. So because if we, di ba, kung lender ka, savers ka, you put your money to the bank, and then after 10 years, you're going to spend it to buy houses or cars, or it can be you're going to do a bank financing. Okay? Or yung side naman ng businesses, they will borrow money to the bank that will consider as capital to buy machineries, equipment, building, and construction of their business or their buildings. So on the other hand, the government invests in physical infrastructure. So also bank borrows in order to invest in physical infrastructure like roads and bridges to encourage business activities. All these capital accumulations redound to bigger productive capacity to sustain household consumption, di ba? The more developed our government, the more developed our place or our country, the higher the investors that they are those that going to invest in our country. Di ba? That's why we encourage tourism. So, but because of the pandemic, so na medyo nagre-less na yung mga turista or mga foreigners na nag-i-enter sa country natin. Excuse me. So, the economy's capital formation investment has always been greater than savings, since government investment is also financed by taxes at times or foreign borrowings. That's why magkano yung utang ng Pilipinas? So because they do foreign borrowings also from other countries, and also they get their income in doing projects from taxes taxes paid by people, or from taxes from the household and businesses. So here I just give you the flow or illustration of the financial system. So if you see, there are two types of finance, the direct finance and the indirect finance and the direct finance. So here we have the savers or the investors. So this group on the pink, dito na side, yung pink are those savers or their surplus of funds or cash. Either household, business firms, government, or foreigners. So they are considered as lender or savers because they have enough or surplus of funds. So their funds, since they have surplus of funds, they will put it to the financial intermediaries. Example, banks or mostly banks or insurance companies. They will put their funds here. Example, we will set financial intermediaries, example, bank. And then on the side of, in order the financial intermediaries or the bank gain income from the funds of the lenders or savers, they will lend it to the borrower or spenders. So those business firms, government, household, foreigners that have a shortage of funds. So because hindi enough yung pera nila, yung funds nila for their businesses or their money hindi enough, or sa government sa project nila, they will borrow funds to the financial intermediaries, example bank, okay, to do business. So that's why in return, if the borrowers are going to pay back to the financial intermediaries, the financial intermediaries will gain profit or income. So yung bank, in what way? Through interest income. So through interest. If you notice, sa bank, yung interest, if magde-deposit kayo sa bank, di ba mababa? Pero if maglo-loan kayo sa bank, ang mahal, di ba? Because business, financial banks, in order to survive, they need also to have income. Okay? That's why this is the flow for indirect financing. For direct financing, it means direct, diretso. So we're in the lender or savers or those group that have a surplus of funds, they will invest it to the financial market. Okay? What are the example of financial market? Yung mga yung mga companies na nag-offer ng mga stocks, di ba? Yung mga banks makita nyo sa stock exchange rate. Example, yung mga open companies na example Jollibee, SM, ano pa mga big companies na nag-offer ng stocks. So, example, household ka. So employed ka, you want to gain more, you want to increase your funds. So since savers ka, ibibigay mo i-borrow mo yung funds mo sa financial market. Example, mag-invest ka ng stock sa Jollibee. So example, with 5,000 pesos, ilang shares yung mabibili mo sa Jollibee. So here, that's why yun yung meaning ng direct financing. So nag-direct ka sa bank, sa companies. Example, you purchase stocks to the company. So in return, the funds that that they get from you, gagamitin naman ng ng company for their expansion or for other projects. That's why yung funds from financial market will go to the borrower or spenders. And also, banks put their funds to the financial market. Paano? Through insurances. Diba? Yung bank nag-offer din ng mga insurances. So, or they invest their money to the stocks. So, direct. So, that's why they offer, term doon. Wherein, there are banks na if you're going to invest on stocks. So, here, so yung financial intermediaries na yun now, na siya, yung arrow, yung nag-invest na sa stocks. In order to gain also a profit. Okay. So, this is an example of financial system where the flow of funds from the savers going to the borrowers, and also how financial intermediaries and financial market interact to the two parties between lenders and borrowers. Okay? So any question on this? So example of financial intermediaries, again, the best example is banks. Okay? So this invest, they borrow or they lend money to the borrower, in which the money of the lender, they use the money of lender to gain profit. Okay, they borrow it to the, or they lend it to the borrower. And also some of their income, they invest it to the financial market. So there are banks that if you see sa sa Philippine stock market, they offer or they are open na sa stock market. So they sell their stocks also to gain income. So if, for example, BDO. So I'm planning to invest in BDO. I'm planning to invest stocks to BDO. So if I have 10,000, so kukumputin yung ilang shares yun, yung value niya. So if I invest in financial market as a lender, I receive also profit or income also. So question? So if none, we'll proceed to the next topic is about minimum wage. Okay. So about minimum wage naman, so it is part of the requirement of the Department of Labor that there is standards or minimum wage, because the problem of inadequate wage is intertwined with the problem of unemployment. Okay, wage is more adequate. Inadequate and unemployment rate is higher as more and more people cannot find jobs that have become scarcer. So it means or limited lang yung jobs. And there are many people who are unemployed. That's why some of the employers exploit those who are looking for the job or those badly needed the job. So that's why some employees is below minimum wage. So sometimes employers abuse due to scarcity of jobs. Some employers offer low wages to their employee or workers. So since we need example, we are unemployed and we badly needed jobs in order to have income. So some employers offer low wages, low rate of salaries and wages to the employee or the employee. So because of that, the government mandates a minimum wage to protect workers. So dapat ang employer should follow the standard minimum wage. So employers are banned from paying wages below minimum standards set by the government. So the employee has the right to sue their employers if they are paid below minimum wage. Yet most wages are still below minimum standard due to lack of enforcement. So if you are employed and then your employer offer you below low wages or below minimum wage, so there are those employees who are afraid to yung magreklamo sa DOLE or Department of Labor. So because if you're going to file complaint to the Department of Labor, so mawalan ka din ng trabaho. So that's why there's lack of enforcement on the side of employers. So here it is creating more jobs that will empower workers. So because of minimum wage, it is creating more jobs that will empower workers to readily find employment and demand higher wages. Pero if your salary, example, there's some instances wherein there's an employee who is employed for 5 years. Still, his salary is not increasing. But since his salary is above minimum wage, he cannot complain to the DOLE that his employer is not increased his salary, even though it is stayed for 5 years, because the salary of the employee is above minimum wage. So those considered lang those below minimum wage. So here is a percentage of employed Filipinos per age group. So if you see, yung konting employed na Filipino is those 65 and over. Siyempre, retired na. And yung high percentage ng nag-work na age bracket is about 27% is the age of 25 to 34. Yes, mostly 25 to 34, and then followed by 35 to 44. Yung mga youth na binibigyan ng opportunity to work is about 17%. Okay. 17%. So yung second na mababa is those retirable naman, 55 to 64%. Yung employed na Filipinos based on age group. So I'm here sa 27%. So kayo nasa 17%. So malaki ng share ng those employed also. So ngayon siguro mag-increase pa itong age group, yung 15 to 24. Mag-high increase also in terms of employed, 17 to 24. Because also of senior high school, it gives opportunity na you can work now after you graduate. Okay, so this is an example of wage order or sample of those required by the Department of Labor in terms of the minimum wage that implemented. So this is the standards. So if you are working in a in a service type of business and your salary per day is 270, so it means below wage below minimum wage. So here nag-increase na siya from 2018 to 2019. This is applied for private companies or private businesses. So they need to follow the minimum standards set by the government. And also here sa NCR, so siguro ito is for province. Actually, it's based on 2018 pa ito. So mas mataas yung minimum wage sa NCR. So non-agricultural or in terms of industry, so malaki. So ito yung minimum wage in different sector of industry. Okay. So from here, nag-increase ang yung basic wage. So from 512 to 537. So this is an example. So I don't know yun kung magkano yung minimum wage. But if you notice, mas mataas yung minimum wage ng NCR compared sa, example, sa provinces. It is due to also to when we compare it to the low supply and demand, there are many still there are more demand of jobs in NCR compared sa provinces. So if a certain area or locality develops, there's a possibility also that the minimum wage also increases because of the many investors put up businesses in a certain locality. Okay, then let's go to taxes. So in terms of taxes, we pay taxes for government to provide a better place where we can exercise our freedom securely, fairly, and progressively. So, but taxes are considered our burden, diba? As we ultimately benefit from public goods and service we get in return. So all goods that we buy or services that we pay are subject to tax. For example, yung bata bumili ng candy, still yung bata nagbabayad na ng tax. The main issue that hobbles the government to maximize tax benefits while minimizing its burden is the shortfall of tax collection due to corruption. So that's why. So shortfalls of tax revenues in government spending can mean less road maintenance. So if shortfall of taxes, so mababa yung collection or income. So the result is yung government spending can also spend less in terms of the maintenance of their projects, or their construction, or books for the public schools, or medical services and medicines for the poor. Okay, so they can provide less in their different projects. So on the top of the shortfall is corruption. So that's a common word. So 'di ba yung issue sa government, yung issue sa country natin always is corruption. So that's why yung iba they prefer not to pay taxes, or they prefer to pay right taxes because they always say ikukurap lang naman yun. So just yung common na sinasabi ng tao. So corruption misallocate spending on not so important from the more important public goods and services. Road beautification instead of free medical services for the poor. So 'di ba? Yung mga yung okay pa ng mga daan sinisira, and then babaguhin na naman. So 'yon. And then some of the public hospitals still hindi pa rin free. Babayad ka pa rin. You cannot admit if you're not going to pay down payment. So 'di ba? So that's the in terms of taxes. So okay. So the more na yung malaki or mataas yung collection ng tax revenue, there's a possibility also na increase yung projects na ma-provide ng government sa country natin. We can develop different projects in terms of roads, providing not also books ngayon because we are online, so laptop, computer to the public, and also provide increase pa yung voucher or maless yung tuition ng mga students, and also they can provide more scholarship and free medicine sana sa poor. Okay? Or mas lesser yung ano, yung price ng mga medicines. Okay? Now we are, ano na yun? Waiting for the vaccine. So, maiwan natin kung magkano yung ibibigay or makapag-provide ng government in terms of vaccine. Okay. So here, let's go to economic icon. So, kilala nyo ba ito? Okay, so this is Alfred Marshall. So, he is an economist. According to him, economics is a science of human welfare, excuse me, and well-being. So if you notice, for him, economic is a science of human welfare and well-being. So if you analyze his statement, he is more focused on human resources or people, human welfare and well-being of people. And the most valuable of all capital is that invested in human being. And capital is that part of wealth which is devoted to obtaining further wealth. These are some of his principles in economics. So capital is that part of wealth which is devoted to obtaining further wealth. So if you analyze it, if we go to business side, if we spend money, if we allot money or invest money for a capital, for a business, so later on, we will obtain also not only limited wealth, but further or long-term wealth. So, ayun yung ano niya. And then also, if you see, economic is a science of human welfare and well-being. Nagko-connect siya sa another statement na the most valuable of all capital is invested in human beings. So for him, human resources or people is very important. Okay? So they are the best asset in the company. So here, Alfred Marshall is born in July 26, 1842 and died in July 13, 1924. He is a dominant figure in British economics, and he demonstrated an aptitude in mathematics but experience in mental crisis that lead him to abandon physics and switch to philosophy. So we also have ano nito? Challenges. His specialty was macroeconomics, the study of individual markets and industries as opposed to the study of the whole economy. He also have a book. He wrote a book which entitled Principles of Economics. So Marshall emphasized that the price and output of a good are determined by both supply and demand. So siya yung yung nag-start ng principles of economics, especially the law of supply and demand. And their curves are like scissors blades that intersect the equilibrium. He brought the ideas of supply and demand, marginal utility, the cost of production into coherent whole. Also, the principles of economics established his worldwide reputation as published in 8 editions starting with 750 pages and growing up to 870 pages. Its main mathematical contribution was a masterful analysis of the issues of elasticity, consumer surplus, increasing and diminishing returns, short and long terms, and marginal utility. So it goes also the credit for a concept of price elasticity of demand, which quantifies buyer sensitivity to price. So thank you kay Alfred Marshall. So it able to the buyers to being sensitive or to analyze prices. And the concept of consumer surplus is another contribution of Marshall. So Marshall used the concepts to measure the changes in well-being from government policies such as taxation. Okay, so si Alfred Marshall is an economist who is specialized in microeconomic studies. So this is our last topic in week 8. Okay, so any question?